looking at some specific rules in both the House and the Senate. Most of these revolve around debate or passing or voting on things. And in the House, we don't have many to look at. We only have this one called a discharge petition. And the reason is that the House has a rules committee that we already spoke about, and they set up the rules for each specific bill. So they don't have like rules that are across the board. Whereas the Senate has a lot of rules that are just across the board, and they don't have a rules committee set up because they already got these rules set up that you're going to follow. So let's start with the first one. We're going to do three right now. One is this first one, that's the House. The other two are going to be Senate rules. 2.20, discharge petition. Discharge petition. Interestingly, if you ever watch Legally Blonde, there's a scene in it where she uses the discharge petition. I think in Legally Blonde 2, but don't quote me on that. All right, discharge petition. One, a petition signed by members of the House. So like literally putting your name to something, right? You've heard of a petition before. So it's a petition that's signed by members of the House of Representatives. It's only in the House of Representatives. All right, petition signed by members of the House. It forces a bill out of committee and onto the floor for a vote. Remember, committee chair have gatekeeper power. They can just kill the bill and just like, you know what, we're not going to do anything in this bill, and kill it. Well, a only way to get it out of committee, if the committee has killed it, is to force it out of committee with a discharge petition. So this will force it out onto the floor of the House for a vote. All you need is a majority, 218 signatures. Doesn't matter which party, just 218 signatures, I should say, needed to force a vote. Now, of course, what you're working against is the whips. If the whips and the majority leader or the minority leader parties members don't want this thing to be onto the floor, especially the speaker, then it may be hard to get members to sign on to the petition. Maybe if they sign the petition, they get in trouble and they lose a committee assignment, or maybe they don't get as many funds to run for election. So there's certain things that the party can do. Therefore, as a result of this, discharge petitions are fairly rare, and an actual successful one is even rarer. Check out this. Only 22 out of 221 discharge petitions that were actually filed made it to the floor between 1967 and 2003. So you're talking there about almost 40 years and only 22. So like one every 2 years, like one per Congress might make it. And there really aren't that many. There's only like 5 or 6 per year anyway. So it's not very successful. And for a whole host of reasons I mentioned in terms of party control and the control that the speaker has over members. All right, now we're looking at Senate rules and 2.21. And this is a classic Senate rule. There's only 100 members in the Senate, so they've always been a lot smaller than the House. So they allow unlimited debate. And there's several reasons for that. We'll look at that right now. All right, pause if you need to. One, remember, this is a Senate rule. The only one that's a House rule is the discharge petition. Everything else we're going to look at here is a Senate rule. So when in doubt, make sure you remember it's a Senate rule. All right. So why unlimited debate in the Senate? What's the reason for that? Well, there's this idea historically that the Senate is more deliberative. They are more thoughtful. They are going to take their time. They're a little bit above these rebel rousing House members who have to get elected every 2 years. The Senate has 6-year terms. They can take their time. They're just going to do a better job making sure the bill is for the will of the people rather than just, ram something through like the House would. All right. And there's some truth to that. There's the old saying that House bills go on to the Senate in order to die. And there's some truth. And so the unlimited debate in the Senate slows down the legislative process. It slows it down. It makes it kind of simmer a little bit. The House, it's like light it on fire and let's do it right now. The House gets worked up into a frenzy very quickly. Remember, they're responsive to the people, but the Senate, not so much. Like, we're going to slow it down a little bit. Let's see whether we really want it. And they'll debate and talk and yap and yap and yap, and it'll take forever. That's kind of a purposeful aspect of the founders as well. It's, again, the Senate is kind of a check on the House. All right, cool. So that is a Senate rule, unlimited debate. As part of that unlimited debate, there is a famous rule called a filibuster, 2.22. You've probably heard of the filibuster. Most people, when they hear filibuster, just think like unlimited talking. And there's some truth to that. It falls into the unlimited debate aspect. So, backside flip, filibuster. This is a tactic used by senators to block a bill. They might block it because they don't like it. They may try to block it in order to change it or add amendments to it. By the way, in the Senate, you can add amendments to a bill at any moment. In the House, you only can add amendments in the committee, in a committee of the whole, or if it's actually allowed to have amendments in the rules, but a lot of times they won't do that. So there won't be amendments during the floor debate. But in the Senate, you can block a bill at any moment, and you might block this in order to not allow it to go forward to amend it. But usually it's to block a bill they don't like. And the idea is, or at least historically, let me be clear, historically, the idea is to hold the floor and speak continually. So a person would get up and speak, or a group of senators would get up and they would hold the floor, and 6 or 7 senators or 20 senators, and they would just like endlessly yap about anything. Technically, when you talked, you could do anything. You could talk about anything. So there have been senators who got up and they would read the Bible, or they would read a book, or they would it was a recent example. I think a senator from Texas, Ted Cruz, read Dr. Seuss. That could happen. Uh, I say historically because now the reality of the filibuster is they changed the rules. And the rules now are if you have 41 senators and you can't get to 60 votes, because it takes 60 votes to end debate. It takes 60 votes to go on and actually vote on a final bill. So if you have 41 senators, they just say, yeah, it's a filibuster, but they don't make them actually talk. And this is actually, I think, very bad, because what it means is that filibusters are used all the time. And there's no real cost to it. The cost used to be you had to get up and speak. Now the cost is, I just will stop a bill and I don't have to do anything. We'll just all go home and not do a darn thing. And so the Senate passes far fewer bills now. They get very little work done, and they filibuster everything. So again, the purpose is to make the bill's supporters back down and just let the bill die. The most infamous example of this, and I say infamous because the bill that he filibustered, was the 1957 Civil Rights Act. Yes, there was a Civil Rights Act. There were several Civil Rights Act prior to the most famous one. The most famous one was the 1964 Civil Rights Act. But there were some other ones earlier that just didn't have as much teeth in them. And 57 Civil Rights Act was supported by President Eisenhower, the Republican president at the time, and his vice president, Richard Milhous Nixon, who was actually the person pushing the bill. And a Democrat, Strom Thurmond from South Carolina, filibustered the bill, and he spoke for 24 hours and 18 minutes. He dehydrated himself for a couple days so that way he wouldn't have to use the bathroom. And at one point, one senator actually asked him to stop speaking and cede the floor for 3 minutes, and he did. And he ran to the bathroom and came back. And then later, his aides actually put a bucket in the cloakroom right off the Senate floor. And so as long as he had a foot in the Senate, he could be still technically have the floor. And so he would go and use the bucket to go to the bathroom. So, I mean, people have done crazy things in order to keep filibusters going. And this is the most crazy one because it lasted for 24 hours and 18 minutes. So, filibusters, speak until they back down. All right, that's the 3 that we're doing today. And then we'll have 3 more famous rules. Study these rules as always, and use your whiteboard and try to write out what the rule is, and make sure you know whether it's a Senate rule or a House rule. Just remember, discharge position is House, everything else is Senate. All right, cool. Hey, thanks. Bye.